In advance because you're going to hear me jumping through your speaker, or you might, if you're watching me, you're going to see me jump through the screen. The reason why is because I just got off the podcast. You have to listen to it. It's absolutely you cannot miss this episode. It's with Tara Harvell. This woman is incredible. We got a chance to work together at 18 years old, and when she was 18 years old, and she has now gone on to build a $10 million empire. She's got millions of dollars in real estate also. She's a genius, a coach and salon owner. She's got a patent with hair extensions. I mean, the girl is absolutely phenomenal. But the thing that hit me the biggest was that, my pops always told me that you never know where someone's from. You never know where they're going. And you never know where you'll meet up with them again. So make a friend out of everyone. And I would like to think that, or tell you today that this story all turns out incredible. Well, I can tell you that there was some things that I said that she told me on the podcast that were so strong, and I almost pulled back at it. One of the things was she told me that I took her out back of the salon when we owned it years ago in Vegas, and she said she even told me where the position of the sun was, and she said it was very hot there. The sun would just beat down on the wall, whatever it is, and I took her outside, and I asked her, have you ever seen Winnie the Pooh? And she said yes. And she said, why? And I said, do you remember Eeyore? And she said yes. And I said, that's who you are. That's who you are when you walk into the salon, is your Eeyore. That's the energy that you bring, and you're bringing everyone down, and you can't be Eeyore in this scenario. You have to be 70 and sunny. Drop your stuff to the side and walk in, because every single person deserves to have a great day and have the opportunity to be able to do that. Now, when I hear those words, I'm a girl dad now, and my daughter's 15, and those are some strong words. But what she told me is that really shifted a paradigm for her in her life. And as I'm not proud to say that I said it, I'm so proud of her and the way that she took it and the action that she took. And, it was incredible, because as I sat down with Proverbs 10 today, I looked at it, and through Proverbs, what it talked about was the things that God was going to ask us to do, and we didn't understand that at the time. Now, I can't say that God led me to tell her that she was Eeyore, but what I can tell you is that God put me on this mission when I started my business, and, it was the first business in our family, and, first physical business in our family, and I locked in, and I was doing all these things, and I was just so focused in on it. But my pops would always tell me, you never know where someone's from. You never know where they're going. You never know where you meet up with them again. So make a friend out of every single person. Now, I don't think that I was making friends at times, but there was disciplines that I knew that we had to put in place to be able to get to the desired result that everybody wanted in the place. And so I was following those things. And, in Proverbs 10 today, it cemented this, that, doing right, or what right is what God would have you to do at the time. Doing right will always bring blessing, but it won't be in the time frame that you think. And this is probably 15 years ago that I had this conversation with this little girl, and it at times it hurt my heart to be brutally honest with people. But 15 years later, I look at her, and her family is impacted by it, and I'm not shining the light on me. I'm saying that when God tells you to do something, do it, and not for the result, but just because he told you to do it, and then he'll bring the blessing, but he won't. I could say, when I say he won't ever, most of the time, he won't bring it on your timing. So this episode of Inchstones is so important to me today, and so valuable, because I get to talk about one of the young ladies, Tara Harvell, that has really inspired me and lit me on fire today because of all the things that she's applied in her life. My pop said it like this. He said, son, life is like a relay race. And I ran it as far as I could, and I passed you the baton. You have to run it as far as you can and pass the baton on. And maybe that could be to your kids, the people that you work with, or the people around you. But Tara took that baton and has ran, exceedingly abundantly more than I could ever even imagine. And I get a chance to spend time with her at the Your Legacy Summit there in Arizona. She's having me come back in and do the keynote speaking. So it's just a full circle moment, or what I call a God moment. So let's get this party started.
Nothing more on my mind. is coming and no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
The Vibe Room, you asked for it. It's here. November 9th at the Edison House in Salt Lake City. It is going to be absolutely phenomenal. What is the Vibe Room? Well, the Vibe Room is a live version of the podcast because there are so many people that wanted to meet the guests that I get a chance to be able to interview. So you get a chance to be able to do that. There's about 60 to 75 people in the room. It's a speakeasy jazz club. It is unreal at the Edison House. And tickets are almost sold out. I told you yesterday that we were going to release them last night, but we'll be releasing them today. Be very limited, but we'd love to be able to have you. If you're watching the podcast, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe and you turn on the notifications too, so you know when the new ones come on. This is an episode of Inchstones. It's the first time that you're here. What we do is we take the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day, and we take you through 3,000-year-old wisdom and how it can be applicable today. Also, too, check out The Vibe. The book, The Vibe, is available on Amazon. You can click the link in the bio. And also, Bling Shine Serum, #1 seller in our company that we had. It outsold anything by 8 times. It adds moisture, strength, and shine, and it smells like vacation. This is an incredible, incredible product. You'll absolutely love it, and so you can click the link also. That's all the station identification. I'm on fire today, and if my voice jumps through through your speaker, or if you're watching and you see my, the look on my face, I want to tell you that I am on fire because I got to spend time with a young lady that just filled up my heart today, and her name is Tara Harvell. And, I was in the professional beauty industry for quite a few years, and I wasn't known as the softest guy in the world. I was very militant in what we wanted. And we lived by a mantra that said commitment eliminates options. Whatever you're committed to eliminates the options of anything contrary to that. I believed in that industry there was only one way to do it, and every other way was inefficient. Now, I'm not telling you that I was right. I'm just telling you that that's what our path was. And although it was simple, it wasn't easy. And it was so incredible to be able to sit down with this young lady who started with me at 18 years old, bright-eyed, and she drove across the country with her Nana because she couldn't afford a plane ticket. But she drove across the country just for a hiring event, not for a job, just the opportunity to apply. And we saw her commitment. We had her on, and she worked with us for about 2 years, and then she moved away, and she actually took all the bunch of concepts that we had done, and she added them to her perseverance, her resilience, and has built an 8-figure empire called Harper Ellis. And it is amazing. And she just we reunited, and I'm actually doing the keynote for her conference, which is a full circle moment for me. And I'm just so proud of her. But I just got off the podcast. If you didn't get a chance to be able to hear her, please go back and listen to her. She's an absolute genius, and it transcends. She's in the professional beauty industry, but it transcends business, which is amazing. And so as I sat down today with Proverbs 10, I was looking at it, and I was like, God, how are you going to deliver on this one? And what he basically said was, when I tell you to do something, do it. And not for the result, but because I told you to do it. And that's going to be an act of faith. And when you're acting on faith, that'll build that muscle. And when you build that muscle, then you'll be prepared for the type of relationship that I want you to have, because it'll always be based on faith, not on circumstance. And so I want to dive right into it. In verse 1, the question was, do you bring joy? And this was a tough one for me to ask, because there's times where I don't. Joy is not happiness. Happiness is circumstantial. Joy is falling in love with your current circumstances and allowing magic to happen. Do I bring joy? Do you bring joy in people's lives? Do you give them the hope of a better day? Do you get them to fall in love with what it is that they're doing? I have to do this every morning because me and my son are walking around the block, and we're throwing the football. And we just want to get some exercise in the morning. And sometimes I have to, get him to fall in love with what we're doing. Yesterday, he was like, oh, it's too dark, Dad. And I was like, isn't it cool that we're throwing the ball in the dark? Oh, it's too misty, Dad. Isn't it cool that it's kind of spooky like Halloween? So are you bringing joy to people and the environments that you're entering into? This one was a big one in verse 2, 3, 16, 24, 25, 28, and 30. That's a lot. is the question came, do you do right work? And another way to question that is, are you diligent? Do you do right work? How do we know what's right? By staying in communication with the one who built us. God built you perfectly, wonderfully made in the image of God, in the image of him, and anything contrary to that's a lie. So from this day forward, just accept the truth that you were made perfect for this day right now. And if God needed you someplace else, he'd have you in that place. Do you do right work? How do we know what's right? We stay in communication with him, meaning, are you in communication with God every single day? Or like my pops would say, I would be like, oh, well, you know, he would ask me, do you talk to God? Yeah, I talked to him on Monday. Well, he would say to me, like, boy, if you wiped your butt on Monday, would it be clean on Friday? And I was like, Dad, that's nasty. He was like, yeah, but you left 5 days in between or 4 days in between that you didn't do what I asked you to do. So does your behavior on Monday make up for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday? No, son, you need to do it every single day. And for you to know what's right, this is what he would say, boy, for you to know what's right, you just got to stay in communication with God by the moment, because he'll let you know what's right in that moment. Then in verse 4 and 5, this was awesome because I had never seen it this way. It just connected things, right? So it said lazy, poverty, diligence, wealth, prudence, sustainable. So as I was looking through that, I was like, man, that was like a kick to the head. Lazy, poverty, diligence, wealthy, prudence, sustainable. Bang, bang, biggity bang. Want to give a big shout out to Jimmy and your family. Hopefully you're listening to this. I'll tell you, kids, listen to your pop and tell him you love him. Write him a letter every single day. But Jimmy, what I want to tell you is I want you to write a letter to your wife and to your kids every day, even if it's 2 sentences. Write them a letter and tell them how awesome they are, but it has to be specific, because if not, your kids will call you out on it and your wife will call you out on it. Jimmy, I love you. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. You're incredible, man, and thank you for all your support. Ashley, you know who you are too. I appreciate you, and you're incredible. In verse 6 and 7 and 26, it mentioned it 3 times. Blessing comes when you do the right thing. Blessings come when you do the right thing, but here's the caveat. They won't generally come in the time frame that you think that they should come. That's the most frustrating thing for me. I've talked about it before, but I want you to know that when you want it to happen, when God has it to happen 2 different times, that's the reason why, if you notice my watch, which I love because it was from my wife, it's never set at the right time. It's on God's time, not man's time, meaning that when I want something to happen and when God has it to happen, it's 2 completely different times. I have a beautiful watch that my wife got for me on my 3rd anniversary, but it is never set at the time that is right now. It's always set at God's time to remind me of that. In verse 8 and 27, wise in heart, accept counsel. Wise in heart, accept counsel. When you're wise in your heart, you'll accept the counsel that God brings into your life. This one was strong because how many verses there are from 8 through 12, 18, 19, 20, 21, 31, 32. This came right from Tara Harvell today, and it blew my mind. She said 2 words that really hit me hard. She said integrity and stats. Are you the same in the dark as you are in the light? And do you have the stats to back up what it is that you're talking about? Boom. She related it to business ownership and mentorship and coaching and things like that. But she said, I always look for integrity and stats. Whew. Imagine if your kids were looking for that. Imagine if your wife was looking for that. Imagine if your friends were looking for that in you. Do you have the integrity and the stats to back up what you want people to think of you, what you want them to do? It's incredible. So watch this. Integrity and stats has 4 components: your walk, your intentions, your words, and your love. Your walk, your intentions, your words, and your love. 4 parts of it, which I think is amazing. Here was the benefits of wisdom. The benefits of wisdom is in verse 13 through 15 and 23. I love the benefits of wisdom because I believe that like everything can be solved with wisdom. right? And so when we look at the benefits of wisdom, discernment, knowledge, wealth, in verse 13 through 15 and 23, it talks about those: discernment, knowledge, wealth. Those are some of the benefits of wisdom. But I find that the benefits of wisdom are infinite. If you seek wisdom, you don't really have to seek other things, because wisdom will give you the right use of knowledge. And when you get knowledge, you'll know how to use it. But where do we get that? From the fear of God. The fear meaning respect. And how do we get that? By spending time with him. In verse 17, discipline is the parent of success. As I wrote this morning, it was almost like God just smacking me upside the head. Discipline is the parent of success. Every single time you see a successful person, I'm not talking about money. I'm just talking about successful in what it is that they do. They set a target, they go after it. It always has discipline. Discipline is always there. And Tara Harvell was that example for me today. And I want to tell you, I am beaming. If you can't, if you could see me, you could see it. If you could just hear me, I hope you could hear my smile through the podcast today, because Tara Harvell, you lit me absolutely on fire. I can't wait to be there at the Your Legacy Summit in November. And I tell you, if you're a salon owner, if you're a business owner, you need to be there. It is going to be unreal, and it's going to be very actionable. So you're going to walk away with tools on how to be able to build your business at a different level. It's just blowing my mind. And I'm very, very fortunate, because as a keynote speaker, the greatest value that I believe that I can give is by coming and speaking to your company, your conference, or your organization. And I get a chance to be able to do that. And, I'm just very, very fortunate and very excited. Lastly, as we finish up in verse 22 and 29 is God does not make sense. Let me sit in that for a second. God does not make sense. Let me put on my glasses, because I want to go here. And this is probably one of the verses. It says, Proverbs 10, verse 22, the blessing of the Lord brings wealth without painful toil for it. You see, for what I thought for a long time is that I needed to strive and make all these strides, do all these things to be able to get the blessing. But what God was saying is just do what I tell you to do when I tell you to do it, because I told you to do it. And then I'll bring the spoils. I'll bring the wealth. I'll bring all these things. But it won't be because you strive, because if you strive to be able to do it, when you get done with it, you'll turn around and tell everybody that you were the one that did it and they should follow you, and he won't ever, 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 ever share his glory. He just wants you to turn their eyes to him. And so God never makes sense. He doesn't make sense in the world side. Thing that I heard the other day was, you're the sum of the 5 people who you're closest to. And we hear this all the time in personal development. Although, think of this. Like, that's not the example that Jesus set. He's hung out with a bunch of 12 dudes who are not the greatest dudes in the world. If he was a sum of the 5 people that were around him, then he wouldn't be that great of a guy. But I could tell you this, you're the sum of the one person that you follow. Well, I would say I choose to follow him. He who built me. So I just think it's great. But it's amazing, because God's plan a lot of times doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me that an 18-year-old, that was with our company for 2 years would then come back around, and now I get to speak at her conference. This is crazy. But God does know. He works that way. And so as we finish up today, is the friends that you make today will be your foundation for the future. He knows where you are, where you're going, and he will put people and things in your path for his glory. You are loved, and your timing in your life is perfect, even when it doesn't feel like it is. And I want to encourage every single one of you, no matter where you're at, you're exactly where you need to be at the exact right time, because God is big enough to have you in another place if he needed you there. And like my pop said, you never know where someone's from. You never know where they're going. You never know where you'll meet up again. So make a friend out of everyone. And I'm glad that I made a friend out of Tara Harvell. And I'm glad to make a friend out of every one of you. There's been another episode of Inchstones. buy the book, The Vibe. Click the link and do that. Buy Bling. It will literally change your life. Moisture, Strength, and Shine. Subscribe to the podcast. Comment on it. Share it with a friend. This has been Inchstones. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue